Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Bufnagle the podcast, where we explore entertaining and enlightening discussions of the adventure of life and all things good. From science and technology to history and philosophy to leadership and success. We hope to give you a better understanding of the world and skills for everyone to pursue their own adventure.
Don't let the phone ring. Oh, yeah, we're recording.
Oh, shoot, we're back. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Bufnagle, the podcast, where we talk about all things good and the pursuit of the adventure of life. I'm Harry. I'll be your host for today. And joining me, as always, because we can't do this without him, is Rafe. Rafe, how are you?
Harry, I'm fantastic. It is like I said, it's a great day to be doing a podcast with you. I want to, before we get started, I want to do this. I want to thank the listeners for being here. We really appreciate you guys. Because of you, we are a global top 10% podcast. We'd like to ask you, if you can, hit that subscribe button so you get instant Buffnagle content delivered straight to you without a brick thrown through your window. It is a remarkable thing. If you hit subscribe, it's a great thing. If you tell a friend to listen, you will get a free episode because you know what? You guys are our marketing arm. And, if you could go out and give us a good review somewhere on that review thing, that makes life wonderful because I get pudding and all sorts of wonderful things happen around there. So that's where we are. Harry, like I said, great day to be doing a podcast with you.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to kind of be taking over these host duties. I think it'll be a little bit more exciting than usual, or maybe less exciting. We really don't know. But, today's Labor Day, right? So we were either working really hard or taking a break from working really hard. But by the time this drops, Labor Day will have passed. So I think it's probably a good time to go ahead and talk about that and whether or not it's good or evil or necessary to do work and to have labor.
Yeah, you said we were either working hard or the joke is working hard or hardly working, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Right. But today, did you work hard today or did you work hard at not working very hard?
I probably worked hard I think I probably always work hard and not working very hard.
Yeah,
it's probably being lazy, right? I think every day is working hard. Right? I've got two small children, so Jamie actually works very hard every day and doesn't get enough credit. So it's a shout out to her and shout out to all the other moms working at home. They're doing great, wonderful, priceless things, raising the next generation.
Yeah, so that's a whole. Wow, you could take this whole episode that we're trying to get planned here for Labor Day, and you can package it into the unsung heroes kind of job. The moms
Right.
out there that are doing all the mom things, the dads that are doing the dad things, and then I guess I'll call them the little people who just get up in the morning and they do their work and they do it every day and they create whatever it is that they are creating. The shop owners and the shoe salesmen and
That's right. There's the people who do the daily work, the tradesmen, right? The guys that go out there and they actually work hard. There's just not enough credit for them.
Okay, I've spent the last couple days working on retiling a bathroom. And so I had to take the old tile out and the cement board that was underneath it and I get that out. And then I had to redo the floor to make it all nice and pretty and level and get all the nails and other things out of that. And I'll bet I've made 6 trips back to the home improvement store. And I always run into those guys you're talking about right there. Those guys, I'm doing it because I can, because this is the kind of thing I can do now that I'm retired. They're doing it. This is their livelihood. And I tell you, the amount of stuff that they pack into their work vans and the quantity of goods and the number of jobs that these guys are pushing and the speed with which they do them is remarkable. And they're, like you said, they're doing all the homes, they're building our neighborhoods, and they're keeping us, I guess, warm and dry in the winter. And
I was going to say warm and cozy as well.
Yeah. So it is Harry, I have bruises on my knees for spending, and I was wearing the knee pads the whole time, and it was I need a day off.
Well, you need a day off, and you probably need to be 10 or 15 years younger too.
The younger thing would hurt. It's the knees are a little bruised. It's really difficult now because if I drop a screwdriver, I have a hard time reaching out to pick it up.
The other day, Jamie went out and bought herself her own little toolkit because she's sick and tired of using my tools all the time. So she's got this little pink thing that she
Nice.
really loves. But we actually had Scotty open it the other day. So we're now trying to teach her, this is how you use a screwdriver. This is how you use scissors or pliers or a hammer. Of course, it's all under supervision. And,
Yeah.
we have to teach her the difference between tools and toys. And I think it's important for everybody to know the importance of hard work.
I see so many now. I guess in general, I'll call them makers. I see so many, I guess I'll say women in the trades doing tremendous work. Certainly in the woodworking community, the number of women that are just, how do you say, kicking ass and taking names is astounding. I tell you, they are doing really, really good work.
I'm sure
And it is very inspiring to see. And you know what? I'm all in favor of the pink tools. I think you might have, Lowe's has this whole series now of these different, have you seen these different colored toolboxes, pink and green and yellow and white and red. And tell you, if you can't find your favorite tool color there, then
sure, you can at least organize better that way too. All of your tiling stuff is in your white bin. All of your woodworking stuff is in your blue bin.
Yeah, that's
a way to use it.
That's a way to look at it. That is a way to look at it.
We've talked about working hard for the hard labor task, but we didn't grow up that way, right? What was the first job you ever had?
Okay,
there's always a story, right?
Yeah, that's when I was probably, I'll bet it was 15, 14, maybe something like that. I mean, I had little jobs, like I would mow people's yards, and typically because my older brothers would have a gig, I'll call it a gig that they did, and sometimes they'd be gone, and I would sub the gig. So we would mow Mrs. Babbitt's lawn, and sometimes I delivered my brother's newspapers, but I didn't really have that job. But the first job I actually got, okay, so Hartford, Wisconsin is this little tiny town, and the downtown area of Hartford consists of 2 stoplights, and only one of them would run 24/7. The other one only ran for about 25 minutes during the shift change of the factory downtown.
All right. When it was necessary.
When it was necessary. Otherwise, It would just be flashing yellow or something like that. And so, but downtown, there were like 1, 2, 3, probably like 3 blocks of parking along the side of the downtown. There was a downtown area, so there were stores. There was no mall. There was no Walmart. Okay, and so people would park along the sides of the street. And then there was also a big parking lot behind the JCPenney store, which was one of the big down, and the other stores that were on that block. There was a big parking lot, and it probably held, I don't know, 60 cars.
Like 10 cars?
Well, probably more like 60. but okay, so that was it. And my job, okay, I swear to God, this was the job. For a week, every hour, on the hour, starting at like 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, I went to every parking space in Hartford, and I wrote down the license plate number of the car that was in that space when I got to the space.
Okay.
So I don't know, it was 60 cars.
You would actually do the whole loop in an hour?
I did the whole loop in an hour. I'd come back to City Hall. I would take that sheet of paper. I'd hand it in. I'd get a drink at the bubbler, Harry, not the water fountain, the bubbler, I'd get a drink. And I'd go and I'd do the next one. And I did it every hour on the hour. And I think the point was this, is they were coming up with a downtown renovation plan thing. And there was an idea to take out some of the parking spaces and replace them with some decorative street edging kind of thing. So what ended up happening after this is they did take out some parking spaces, and the street, instead of going straight, it had like a bulge out and then back. And in that little bulge, they planted a tree. So they added a number of trees in the downtown, along the downtown.
Little beatification.
It was a downtown beautification project is what it was. And I was, even back then, Harry, I was doing statistics and data collection.
Well, you started early. Start them young and bring them up, and they'll do the same thing for life.
Like I have no idea what they did with the data. I mean, I can't imagine what the data consisted of. It was a sheet, and I just wrote license plate numbers in there. And I don't know if somebody went through and counted, this is how many cars there are on this block. on average. This is how many cars there are during the 10 o'clock hour, the 6 o'clock hour.
This is how long the cars stay there for.
See, but I didn't stay, like, there's no way they could have done that because I came through once an hour and the precision of that estimate is really lacking. But that was my first job. And then I had some jobs like working at restaurants, stuff like that. And then I had a job mowing, like I said, mowing lawns and digging trees. You buy a tree, it's in a big burlap thing.
Yep.
That was my job, was to put the tree in there, and there's a thing to that.
Was there a least and most favorite job?
Yeah. Well, probably my least favorite job was one summer working at a gas station. And it had nothing to do with the job. I really liked the job, but the boss was things I cannot say on this show. I just was.
Well, I mean, that's what people say all the time is, people leave their jobs not because of the work they're doing, but because of the person and the people that are around them. And I think we're going to talk about that later in the show about why people are important for work.
Yeah.
And that's certainly part of it.
So that was a job that I didn't like, was that one. It was a summer job and I was working. That's what I did.
Yeah. And was there a most favorite? Collecting data on street numbers and street signs?
Well, that was nice. And it's, since I've retired, okay, I'll tell you this too. So this is coming out of the woodwork, I guess. No pun intended there. So I retired in essentially July 1st, and I've taken a new job now doing, I work at a retail store, specializing in woodworking equipment and stuff. So we sell wood and things like that. And I work a couple shifts a week. And the guy, what's the right word? He tried to seduce me into the job by telling me the pay was bad, but the discounts are good. So that's what
There's got to be some kind of benefit, right?
Yeah, so that's what it was. But it's everybody there is that I've never met a group outside of pharma working with the science people. I have not met a group that was so highly educated. But in this case, highly educated, completely outside of the realm where we were
science, biology, and all that.
Yeah. So we got a lot of very educated people working in the woodworking store.
Speaking of education, there's got to be, when we talk about these jobs, right? Like, so my first job was working in a clothing store, a school uniform store. So it's eventually not very much work. You kind of sit in the back and you organize all the shirts and the blouses and the skirts and the trousers. And then
so this was like for private schools, right? If you go to one of these private schools, you can get your uniform there, right?
Right. So somebody's got to do all the stocking and delivering of clothes, right? So that was me. Not a lot of what, in baseball, when you're playing shortstop, it's moments of boredom punctuated by sheer moments of terror. It was kind of like that in the uniform store, right? So lots of moments of boredom and no terror. Just somebody comes in every once in a while, except for a few weekends right before the school year where things get busy. That was my first job. But, you've had a point that you wanted to make here, I think, for a little bit about why it's important to have a job, why it's important to work, and what does it do for mankind to work?
Yeah, because we've had this, you and I, or you and the guy on the street, or anybody who's listening right now, we can just yak about whatever. But I'm not trained to do that. That's not right. So I appeal to authorities in these kinds of things because somebody will tell me something that I don't already know. And so to answer this question, because we knew this was coming up, I pulled up my catechism and I said, well, what does the church say? Because these are people that have studied this kind of thing for thousands of years, and we have a lot of learning on this material, right? And so I said, well, what does the church say about work? And it turns out the catechism discusses this very topic of what's the nature of work and how does it relate to man. And this is in the section called Part 3, Life in Christ. And it's under the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments are broken into two sections, one dealing with love God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and the other one is love your neighbor as yourself. So in the love your neighbor as yourself is the 7th commandment, which is thou shalt not steal, right? And work is discussed in this section, okay? So you can see how this whole thing is broken down. So, and it's interesting that of what's in this section that thou shalt not steal, there's a section on private ownership of goods. There's part on respect for persons and goods, social doctrine of the church, economic activity and social justice, justice and solidarity among nations, and love for the poor. The section on work is in the piece on social justice.
So it's more than just the church is all about socialism or the church is all about capitalism. And there is a single use fits all for all situations. You're telling me that there's more than just one size fits all here.
Yeah, this is it's a very interesting read. And I started digging in this because I remember there were some paragraphs when I had read the catechism. There were paragraphs that discussed this kind of thing, and I looked it up. And then I didn't realize how complicated all of this stuff is and how it all fits together. But there's three main paragraphs. I guess I'll say there's three that are central to our topic here today, which is what tell us about work and how it relates to man. Okay. And the paragraphs are paragraph 2426, 2427, and 2428. And I'm going to read through this. They're paragraphs, so not all that big, but I want to go through them and talk about them and bring them forward and then discuss how we should interpret them in light of this conversation.
Sure.
Okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So 2426. The development of economic activity and growth in production are meant to provide for the needs of human beings. Economic life is not meant solely to multiply goods produced and increase profit or power. It is ordered, first of all, to the service of persons, of the whole man, and of the entire human community. Economic activity, conducted according to its own proper methods, is to be exercised within the limits of the moral order, in keeping with social justice as to correspond to God's plan for man.
Sure. Yeah, it's only one paragraph, but
wow. Okay, so
I'm sure we could spend an hour talking about just that.
Okay, so, well, all of these. I mean, I'm trying to imagine. So this book, this book has thousands of these. How many? Here, I got this. You have this
3,200. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. There's like 3,000 paragraphs that talk about everything. Everything the church teaches pretty much is in here. But I found this really interesting, and I found this kind of an enlightening. I don't want to say it's middle of the road because it kind of feels like a compromise, but it feels like a place to stand that is respectful of people's desire for property and ownership, but also represents the dignity of man and how things should serve man and not the other way around.
Right. And I think a lot of that's broken down in the first sentence, right? Development of economic activity and growth in production are meant to provide for the needs of human beings. So we must do things and we must work and have economic activity in order to provide for ourselves.
Right. So there's a purpose there, right? There's a purpose. And the purpose isn't just and they said it's not to increase profit or power. Profit's great. Power sometimes can be good, but we know what about power, Harry? Power
corrupts.
It corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Okay. It is ordered first of all to the service of persons, of the whole man, not just feeding his tummy or his entertainment desire or other sorts of desires that he may have, and of the entire human community. So all of those components are necessary in consideration of what economic activity and growth and production have to do. They have to do that. And it has to be done in keeping with the moral order and has to correspond to God's plan for man. All those things are necessary. Those are the boundaries in which you are working when you're talking about
boundaries
work.
And the foundation, right? And I think the next paragraph, 2427, really goes into how to do it and why it's important.
Yeah. And so we're going to come back to my favorite phrase here coming up in this paragraph. Human work proceeds directly from persons created in the image of God and called to prolong the work of creation by subduing the earth, both with and for one another. Hence, work is a duty. Quote, if anyone will not work, let him not eat. Work honors the Creator's gifts and the talents received from him. It can also be redemptive. By enduring the hardship of work in union with Jesus, the carpenter of Nazareth, and the one crucified on Calvary, man collaborates in a certain fashion with the Son of God in his redemptive work. He shows himself to be a disciple of Christ by carrying the cross daily in the work he is called to accomplish. Work can be a means of sanctification and a way of animating earthly realities with the Spirit of Christ. Oh my goodness.
Well, I really hope what we're doing right now is a means of sanctification and putting this
well,
out there.
well, okay, so I'm reading this. I was like, okay, so there's these pieces here. Okay, so the first one, human work proceeds directly from persons created in the image of God. Okay, and like I say this over and over and over again, you are Imago Dei. And what did God do at the beginning? If you start reading, God makes stuff and he sees that it's good. He makes stuff and he sees that it's good. And sometimes he makes stuff and sees that it's very good. Okay, but that's part of what you are called to do, right? And before the fall, man was placed in the garden to tend the garden. There was a job that man had to do. That was this. There was a work.
You
There was
mean
work to be done.
a duty?
It was a duty, right? And we talked last summer. I had an episode on duty and how the queen fulfilled duty and how my mother-in-law fulfilled her duty, and how we all have duty to do. And we talked about that with Gawain and the Green Knight. So we're big on Imago Dei and we're big on duty, and that's right out of the gospel. If one will not work, he will not eat. All right, work honors the Creator's gifts and the talents received from him. The things you do here, the things that you're good at, they come through in your job. The things that I'm good, like I was doing data analysis at 14 or 15, collecting license plate numbers.
Yep.
All right, so these are things that we are doing, and by doing those things, we are using what God has given us.
And in that sense, it's also a disservice to not use your talents. Right? If you're created in the image and likeness of God, and you are designed to create or designed to build or designed to nourish and protect, and you don't do those things, as Gawain found out, right?
Mm-hmm.
You are not beholden to your duty. You must be beholden to your duty.
Right. And that's the Rocky thing too, right? I mean, it's like, oh, it's a life. No, it's a waste of a life, right? You're called to make the most of your talents, right? And there's a parable of the guys with the talents. One guy buries this in the yard, and the other guy takes his 100 talents, turns them into another 100. Right? You were given something. Your job is to make the most of it. Right. And part of that is your work. The thing that got me though, is I'd forgotten about this idea about it being redemptive. All right. You collaborate with Jesus in his redemptive work. Jesus, the carpenter, was a worker. These guys did work. And I look at the guys who build, like the guys maybe pouring concrete so somebody can have a sidewalk to walk on, or they're building a school, or they're building a house or a factory. I mean, these are working people. And I talked about this, Harry, remember we talked about the Monon Trail. And when I ride on the trail, I think about the guys who built the railroad. And those guys have been dead now 100 years. Easily. All the guys who built the trail, that built the railroad, they're dead, they're gone. And their legacy is living on because of the work that they did. And it provides when you do good, it flourishes.
It provides everything else. And you are, with the Monon, you are in a way riding on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah.
In your work as a statistician and mathematician, you are working and building upon the shoulders of those who came before you. And you're using your talents to create good.
It is an amazing thing to think of, that this is your duty, and this ties you to your nature as Imago Dei. Right? And now the last paragraph, 24, 28, this was shorter. In work, the person exercises and fulfills in part the potential inscribed in his nature. The primordial value of labor stems from the man himself, its author and its beneficiary. Work is for man, not man for work. And I thought, okay, so we started with this first paragraph, was this whole big picture about how you have to contemplate what work is and what the boundaries are. The second one is how it's a duty and you are called to do it, but it provides these goods. But the third thing is not too much. All right, the work is for the man, not the man for the work. So when you
shouldn't be slaving away.
You have to do. Remember, God rested on the seventh day. And there's real value in that. I know a lot of us, and I have trouble with this one because it's in my nature to, I was retired for what, a
A
month.
week.
And it's like, Harry, I can't sit and not work. I can't not work. Now, sometimes I do kind of stupid work, and sometimes I do silly work, and sometimes I do work that others could do, but I do it because I'm a cheapskate, like mowing
Surely
the lawn.
even the stuff that you do in your workshop at home in the garage and building tables and chairs and restoring old, pieces of craft work, that is also considered work, even though you may not be doing an economic good per se. You're still benefiting society.
Yeah,
You are servicing persons, and you are servicing the entire human community by doing so.
yeah, I think so, and I think that's where it. There's that. People can say, well, work. That was part of the. There's a lot of there's always discussion when you talk about work. When slavery always raises its head. Okay, and the problem with slavery, like as if
Let's count the ways.
yeah, let me come right. So it's a form of theft. Somebody does work and you get the benefit of their work. Okay, so that it's obviously that it's wrong. Why is it wrong? It's wrong because it denies their dignity. It takes away their agency. It does not follow these constructs here that are put in place to respect the nature of the worker, and it's a form of theft, and that's why this discussion here on work is underneath the seventh commandment of thou shalt not steal.
It's a balancing act. Like, you can't, thou shalt not steal. So don't take some property that's not yours. Don't take away the dignity of someone else's value of time. Right. And that's part of what it comes down to too. We're on this limited track of time from A to Z. Some of us only get from A to D or A to L, unfortunately. But if you rob somebody either of their property or of their hard work and you take it for your own, you're taking their time, which is probably even worse.
And that's the concept of a just wage. And that's where it gets, and just because this is specified and someone can say, you need to be consistent with with social justice and you need to follow God's plan for man. It can be difficult and justifiably difficult to figure out where that line is. That can be a difficult thing. There's some things that are obviously not good. Slavery, obviously very, very bad, certainly from an economic point of view for the slave, right? And it is theft. But then the question comes in: well, how much pay is enough pay? Is
How much pay
$10
is
an
enough
hour
pay?
enough?
How much tax is enough tax?
Right? So should it be $50 an hour? Should it be $150 an hour? How do you, right? And then there are questions you can play with that. What is a just wage? How do you work with that? Are minimum wage laws good? Are they bad? Do they help? Do they hurt? So there are a lot of discussions there, but the overriding principles still have to be there. Okay, dignity of the worker, respect for both the I guess I'll say the laborer and the employer as Imago Dei, and then the other one that I keep seeing is this not to increase not solely to increase profit or power, and that's when I see, like, we spend a lot of time measuring things relative to profit. Yeah, profit is a great thing. It can do wonderful stuff. It puts, cars in garages and swimming pools behind homes, and it builds beautiful lawns, and it can buy up land and save it for the future, right? There's wonderful things about profits.
Sure.
But if profit is the only, if it's the only measure, okay, then you're missing on other things. Like, for example, I've said this on a number of times on this show, is that there are measures out there other than economic utility. Are you building something that respects the nature of man? Are you building something that is beautiful? Are you building something that is good? Or are you only worried about increasing the profit? Because if you do, then you lose sight of these other components. This is a multivariate problem, and profit can't be the only. It can't be the only metric.
Yeah, and I think that's really hard for a lot of people, because that's how they measure themselves in society. They measure themselves by net worth. What's your net worth? What's your debt level? What's all of these other, the financial component of life takes up so much space in everybody's mind that sometimes it's the main thing that they focus on.
Well, because You know what? And I'll say that I think one reason they do that is because it's a very easy thing to do. Now,
Well,
it may,
it's still a measure of your time and the work that you've done, right?
right,
As long as
right.
you are paid fairly and justly, it is a measure of what you have done with your life.
But some people have had more better circumstances, and
Sure.
I understand all that argument. But that's not the whole picture, right? And we see that when we see people who have abandoned all components of that to live a different life, right? Um, I have though my son-in-law's sister
Yes.
is in a convent in France, and they are, by all measures, they are dirt poor. They have nothing other than the grapes they grow there and the jellies that they make, and the sheep. I think they make wool and they knit and they do things like that, and they spend a lot of time in prayer. But they are very rich people, but they are not measuring with the same metric. Now that metric is hard. It's hard to measure with that because you can't put a ruler on it, and right. And so I think that's the caution is don't let the dollars be the only thing. That you have to be able to, and like I want to talk back to the little guys here. Okay, the people that built the little town of Hartford, Wisconsin. There were mayors there. Okay, and may have had It's a Wonderful Life. Okay, so George Bailey wants to go around and see you know what he did, his role, his duty there in Bedford Falls. That's his realm, and it's very easy to look out there and say, "Oh, I should be bigger. I should be more powerful. I should have more influence.
I should win the Medal of Honor. Why did my brother get it?"
Yes, that's right. I should get all these things. Why did I not have that? And the thing is, I go back to this one we've said a number of times. The only game you're in is the only one that really matters. Is you have to win the game against the person that you were meant to be, and we're not all meant to be titans of industry. Some of us are meant to be humble fathers. Some of us are meant to be working mothers. Some of us are meant to caretake the park. Some people, right? So there are pieces all around, and don't let yourself get pulled into the uh, into the deceit that is you have to go seek higher, more, because that's a game that you're not going to win.
Right. And sometimes you just have to acknowledge where you're at and what you're doing with it. And I kind of want to bring us back to where we're at today, which
Yep.
is Labor Day. And you've mentioned sometimes, at least in our personal conversations, that it takes on socialist tropes. So why do we have Labor Day, at least here in the United States?
Well, Harry, that's a great question. My understanding of the labor relations in this country, you go back, people have always had the problem of putting power too high and not respecting the rights of the workers. And the unions came in and really fought for benefits for the workers. I mean, you look at the mills in New England in the 1800s. You look at sharecropping. You look at places where people were not where the dignity of the worker was not maintained, where the wages were low and conditions were awful. Child labor laws, all those things. And I think Labor Day celebrates the fact that there were that was a valuable thing to be able to get to where we are, to regulate that and to get to where we are.
And recognize contributions made to America by the working class for America's strength, prosperity, and well-being.
Yeah, but that doesn't stop. But it's real easy to have that pendulum swing way to the other side, right? So
Yep.
you can. And I think the goal is to keep that thing in the middle where you are respecting both the rights of the worker and of the employer, and keeping it within those boundaries that we talked about in paragraph 24 or 26.
Right. I mean, I think you've said this before. Focus on the people, not on power.
Yeah.
Don't focus. You don't need to focus on profit. Right. It's a good way to measure business. Right? There's no doubt about that. But when it comes to work in mankind, do your duty. Help the community around you. Maybe use the profit thing as a measure of success for the business, but not for the man.
Yeah, that's a great way to say it. It's a measure of the business and not of the man. Um, and I guess the other thing is, the balance here is the real. This is a hard one to balance. Some of the other things are easier to balance. This is a really hard one. So don't let yourself get don't let yourself get pushed one way or the other. Stay balanced on this thing. The work should benefit the man, not the other way around. And work is a duty, and it's part of your setup as Imago Dei is to do work. So that's a good thing. So it's a good.
That's right. I think that's all great. I remind everyone to do your just duty, do it well, honor yourself, those around you, and honor God. Remember to seek the good, be the good, spread the good, and enjoy the adventure of life.